Speaking of the ACC, it has long been mentioned that the grant of rights portion of the current ACC contract, something which extends all the way out to 2036, is something that's prohibitive from schools leaving. Now, it is based on my understanding, the situation much like a coach's buyout. We always talk about a coach is on the hot seat. Well, the buyout drops at this date. The buyout drops at this year. As we get closer and closer to 2036, the cost to leave with the exit fee and the grant of rights as it is set up is going to continue to drop. Could it be worked around now, Tom?
Yes.
Okay, give it to me.
It involves some cooperation and evil genius kind of thought process. First, shout out to Andy Staples, who wrote about the grant of rights situation on The Athletic last week, and he basically went over there are 4 ways to get out of a grant of rights. The first way is you just throw up the double birds and say, screw you, I'm leaving, come get it, come and take it, which will probably end up costing you a lot of money. The other one is you just sue, which there's no guarantee that you're going to win. You're going to be paying lawyers a very long time to be fighting this in court with no guarantee you're going to win. So you're probably going to end up paying a lot of money. The third option is to come to like a buyout agreement where it's like, all right, well, we're not going to pay the full grant of rights, but we can work it down and you're going to end up paying a lot of money because there's still like 15 seasons left on the grant of rights. But there's a fourth option, and it's one I have mentioned on the show before. You can't pay money to something that doesn't exist. So, speaking of loose agreements and alliances, there are going to be 2 super leagues, the Big Ten and the SEC, who have been gobbling up all the big brands and who don't really seem to be done just yet. So what happens if Kevin Warren and Greg Sankey get together and decide they're each going to take 4 ACC schools at the same time? What if the Big Ten says, we're going to take Virginia, North Carolina, Georgia Tech, and Duke, or Pitt, or, whatever. Chip, you tell me, would North Carolina go anywhere without Duke?
I've always imagined that North Carolina and Duke are packaged together, and the Big Ten would always be the most likely landing point. Mm-hmm. You mentioned the AAU. North Carolina is like an old dog in that frat.
Yeah.
They're like 1922 initiation date in the AAU.
Yeah, they've got AAU branded on their ass, and it took, they had to deal with that sitting down for a few weeks. So anyways, the Big Ten goes against Virginia, North Carolina, Duke, Georgia Tech. And then the SEC says, well, we'll take Miami, we'll take Florida State, we'll take Clemson, and I don't know, a 4th, NC State, Virginia Tech, whatever one they want. So the 2 of them coordinate, get together, and take 8 of the 14 teams in the ACC. Who do you have to pay the grant of rights to at that point? The conference is dead. The other 6 schools will be leaving. So that's the one way I think that you could get around it. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm not saying it's what they should do. But if they wanted to, that is one way both the Big Ten and the SEC could make it happen, and make it happen immediately and not have to worry about paying a bunch of money to make it happen.
So I thought that you were going to come here with, like, I've heard about a competitive clause, the idea that there is an argument in court that, for example, Clemson could say, this deal that we went into is an unfair deal for us because it is equal revenue payments, and we are the reason for a majority of the money that's coming in and being distributed to all 14 members. That Clemson can say, we are the brand that drives the payments, and so therefore this deal is unfair for us, and that's why we should be able to get out, or at least negotiate some sort of exit strategy. And that those would be very, very costly legal moves because they would take a lot of lawyering, they would take going to court, they would take a lot of billable hours, but they could be something that would be argued. It's just that from the legal perspective, no one is quite sure if they want to engage with that yet. It's just such a commitment of time, of money, of resources, that trying to nitpick all the different loopholes within the grant of rights. And by the way, the grant of rights is, if UNC and Duke go to the Big Ten, then Big Ten checks have to go back to the ACC if the
Mhm.
ACC still exists as
Mhm.
until 2036.